Hey there, I'm Brooke Miller, registered dietitian, certified lactation counselor, and a mama who's helped hundreds of moms feel like themselves again after baby, boost their energy, mood, metabolism, and even their milk supply. Inside of the Postpartum Reset podcast, you'll learn how to take care of your health so that you can show up best for the ones you care about most. Each week, we'll tackle topics like nutrition, exercise, breastfeeding, mental health, and so much more. Plus, you'll get exclusive access to guest experts who will share different ways to make your pregnancy and postpartum experience so much easier. Whether you're approaching the postpartum period or you're right in the thick of it, you're in the right place. Let's dive into today's topic. Hello. Welcome to the very first episode officially of the Postpartum Reset podcast. I'm so happy you're here. And if you're new to me, you may be wondering who I am. So hey there, I'm Brooke. I'm a dietitian. I'm a lactation counselor. I've been in this field for over 10 years. And this is actually my third podcast. This is my first solo podcast, but last year we shut down our podcast that we had been running for a while, me and my dietitian bestie. And we honestly, podcasting has been something I've been doing on and off since 2020. And so it's been a few years in the making, and I'm so excited to bring this specific podcast to you. So today I wanted to answer one of the very top questions I get asked as a dietitian and a lactation counselor. And that question I get asked all the time is, does breastfeeding guarantee weight loss? If I breastfeed, will I lose the baby weight? And full disclosure, back in the day before I had kids, when I became a lactation counselor, I used to teach breastfeeding classes, and something I would always tell moms, again, before I had my own children, before I had actually been working with moms for years, I started telling them that if you breastfeed, it's a really great form of burning calories and it'll help you lose the baby weight. And I was really using this as a way to incentivize moms to breastfeed, because the goal of my job in my first position was to increase the amount of moms who tried breastfeeding and, of course, increase the duration of time that moms breastfeed, because of course there's a lot of health benefits for mom and baby for, the longer amounts that moms breastfeed. And so I used to use this as almost a tactic to help moms stick with it. Like, if you do it, you will lose the weight. And then I started working with moms one-on-one, and I would have moms come into my office and I would help them with latching or whatever their breastfeeding question was. And they would say, hey, I thought breastfeeding would just, create weight loss, but I, haven't lost the baby weight, or I'm not losing weight at all. And I thought breastfeeding was that magic tool. And so I'm going to break it down for you, but breastfeeding alone is not this magic weight loss tool. The truth is that breastfeeding alone does not guarantee weight loss, and it doesn't guarantee quick and fast and rapid weight loss. Now, you may be sitting here thinking, yeah, but with my first baby, I did lose the weight quickly. Or my best friend, was eating and she wasn't watching what she was eating and she still lost the baby weight quickly. So I'm not saying that this is something that is impossible. I'm not saying that there's not women out there who do lose weight quickly after birth, but your hormones and your metabolism actually play the biggest role in your weight. And when it comes to our hormones and metabolism and supporting them, the biggest thing that's going to help support your hormones and metabolism while breastfeeding is actually your nutrition. So when we think about breastfeeding, a lot of you may know that breastfeeding does burn energy. You are burning energy to create milk, to produce milk. So technically, yes, you are burning calories. However, in order to sustain the amount of milk that you are producing, you actually need to be eating more calories to maintain that milk supply. So there's a lot of research to back up that if moms go on a low calorie diet while breastfeeding, especially anything under 1,800 calories, the likelihood that it will start to impact your milk supply is pretty good. And so a lot of moms are just like, oh, I'm just going to go on a diet and breastfeed. And then what they end up finding out is that their milk supply starts to dwindle. And so the more milk you produce, the more calories you need to eat in a day to maintain that milk production. So I've worked with moms who are pumping 40 to 50 ounces a day. And I've worked with moms who are breastfeeding, a few times a day. And the moms who are breastfeeding a few times a day they're going to probably be eating a little bit less calories than the moms who are producing 40 to 50 ounces a day. But you get it. The more milk you produce, the more calories you need to eat to maintain that milk production. So you may be wondering, you may be sitting here and you may have tuned into this episode because you're like, I want to lose weight while breastfeeding, but I don't want to lose my milk supply. And so what do I do in this situation? So the thing that we want to pay attention to in this situation is, how can I support my hormones and my metabolism best in this situation as a postpartum breastfeeding mom? So the first thing is, I want to make sure that my nutrition is taken care of. And what do I mean by that? I mean eating enough calories for your body. What ends up happening if you are under eating calories for your needs, especially drastically under your needs, which a lot of moms do postpartum, your metabolism adapts. It's called metabolic adaptation. And so what ends up happening is, if you're under eating calories for a chronically long period of time, you start to lose muscle mass and water weight. And what ends up happening when we start losing muscle mass is our metabolism slows down and we start burning less calories at rest. And so as women in general, as we age, we do tend to lose muscle mass over time. And so the goal, especially in our 20s and our 30s and our 40s, is to build and maintain as much muscle as possible, because that's going to help keep our metabolism functioning well. So of course, when it comes to building muscle mass, part of that is through resistance training, but part of that is also eating enough calories and enough protein to protect the muscle mass that you are building. So this is why bodybuilders are eating a lot of extra calories. They're eating a lot of protein, because if they were on a 1,000 calorie a day diet, they would be actually losing a lot of muscle mass. So yeah, we want to make sure that we're eating enough calories so that we're supporting our metabolism and we are able to keep the muscle mass on our body. If you've been wanting to reach your healthiest weight and feel like yourself again postpartum without having to sacrifice your favorite foods or your milk supply, I've got a free workshop just for you. Inside of this free workshop, you'll discover how to boost energy, mood, metabolism, and even protect your milk supply. You'll learn common mistakes that moms make that actually cause exhaustion, mood swings, low milk supply, and weight loss resistance to become worse, things that moms don't even realize. And you'll learn the proven 3-step method to heal your hormones and metabolism after baby, so you can go from surviving to thriving postpartum. Plus, as a free gift, you'll get my postpartum snack guide when you come hang out with us. All you have to do is click the link in the show notes to save your seat today. Spots are limited. See you there. The next piece that we really need to focus on is blood sugar balance. And you might be thinking, well, I don't have gestational diabetes, or I don't have pre-diabetes. I don't have diabetes. Nobody in my family has it. Why should I care about my blood sugar balance? Well, when our blood sugar is constantly up and down and it is not balanced throughout the day, what ends up happening is our body stores excess weight. That's usually a big symptom of this. And so a lot of patients, when they get, let's say, a type 2 diabetes diagnosis, they'll go to the doctor and the doctor will say, oh, just lose weight and it'll fix your blood sugar. But they've actually got it backwards. If they were to tell the patient, hey, let's focus on strategies to keep your blood sugar balanced. And there's a lot of nutrition strategies. There's also strategies with exercise, sleep, and stress. But instead, if the doctor were to say, hey, let's really focus on ways that we can stabilize your blood sugar through nutrition, through exercise, through sleep, through stress, what ends up happening is, if a patient is able to stabilize their blood sugar through those things, usually weight loss is a side effect. And it's not that losing the weight was the thing that fixed their blood sugar. It's that weight is a side effect of our blood sugar balance. And so the more balanced that your blood sugar is, the more likely that it is that you're going to be able to reach and maintain your healthiest weight, whatever that is for you. And so there's a lot at play here, but when it comes to nutrition, those are two of the main things that we need to focus on. And then of course, being a postpartum mom and a breastfeeding mom, your vitamin and mineral needs are exponentially higher, even higher than pregnancy, which is why we need to make sure we're not having, nutrition deficiencies, because once we start running into nutrition deficiencies, there's a whole slew of problems that we'll dive into in later episodes. But I'm going to try to keep it short and sweet for you because I know that you guys are busy moms. Okay. So some other things that play a role in our hormones and our metabolism, which also play a role in our weight, is exercise. And so a lot of people hear that and they think, I'm just going to do cardio all day long because cardio is the thing that burns calories. And sure, cardio does burn some calories up front, but when we're doing something like strength training and resistance training, even though it may not burn as many calories up front, which a lot of times it can, especially if you're doing circuit training, that's not what we care about. We care about how our body composition is changing. And so if we are doing more strength training and more resistance training, even with body weight, there's still ways that we can build muscle and maintain muscle through body weight exercises. This is the thing that's going to help keep our metabolism functioning best. What ends up happening if you are in a state where you are underfed and you are over exercising, especially with cardio, it actually puts your body in a state of stress. And when your body is in a state of stress, we tend to hold on to weight. And so you've probably, had maybe a period of your life, or maybe you've had friends that have gone through this, where maybe you have a close friend who's gone through a really stressful situation, maybe a death of a loved one or a divorce or something really stressful. And what ends up happening to a lot of people in the stress response is a lot of people end up, even though they don't change anything with their diet, with their nutrition, with their exercise, with their sleep, a lot of times weight gain or weight loss is a side effect of stress. And so being in a chronic state of stress, that can actually lead to weight gain as well. And then when we look at sleep impacts our leptin and ghrelin hormones. This is our hunger and fullness hormones. And so sleep plays a huge role in our weight as well. And this is why so many nurses I've worked with so many nurses over the last 4 or 5 years, where they'll say, I haven't changed anything with my nutrition, with my exercise, nothing at all, but I was working days and now I'm working nights and my sleep schedule is all over the place and now I'm gaining weight. And this is a really common thing I've seen with night nurses specifically. First and foremost, sometimes their eating patterns get off, but another piece is that their hunger and fullness signals are a little bit off balance with the lack of sleep or with the poor quality sleep. And so just know that breastfeeding alone does not guarantee weight loss. Weight is determined by a lot of things going on in our body. So our hormones and our metabolism, and some things that impact our hormones and metabolism are nutrition, exercise, sleep, and stress. The great thing is we have control over a lot of these things. We have control over, our blood sugar balance, and we have control over making sure that we're eating enough calories. We have control over going for a daily walk. Sleep, to an extent, we do have control over. We don't have full control over that with our newborns, but we do have control over when we're going to bed. And with stress, again, we can't control what necessarily happens to us. And sometimes a stressful situation will happen to us and it's completely out of our control, but we can handle, or we get to decide how we're going to handle that stress response and what we're going to do in those situations to manage our stress. There's a bug on me. You guys, stop. I can't handle this. Oh, I wish I was really ballsy with animals, but I can't. If I see a snake, which I did the other day, this is what happens. I live in Colorado. I was out for a walk with my kids and my friend, and we saw a big snake and I screamed and freaked out. And then I was on the bike trail the other day with my husband and my kids, and we saw another big snake, and I can't do it, guys. I can't handle it. All right. So I hope that answered your question. I hope that gives you a little bit of clarity. So just know if you are currently breastfeeding and the weight is not flying off and you're like, what is wrong with me? Just know that there is nothing wrong with you. But you can start asking yourself, how am I doing in these other areas? How am I doing with my nutrition? How am I doing with my exercise? How am I doing with my sleep? How am I doing with my stress? And likely there is, some work that we can all do in all of these areas. So I want you to know it is possible for you to feel good physically and mentally in your post-baby body. It is possible to reach your healthiest weight while breastfeeding without losing your milk supply. But again, most moms are going about it the very wrong way. They are dieting, they are under eating, they are eating low calorie, they're eating low protein, they're eating low fat. And these things are things that we really want to avoid. So I hope that was helpful. If you can, please, please, please leave a written review. I would love to hear your feedback. And of course, if you're listening and you have any additional questions, or if you have any topics that you want to hear about, just send me a message on Instagram at Nutrition for Mamas. I would love to hear from you, and I will see you guys in the next episode. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today and listening to the Postpartum Reset podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, it would mean the world to me if you could share this episode with a mom friend and leave me a written review. This helps the podcast reach and help even more moms. Come say hi and connect over at Instagram at Nutrition for Mamas.